Hi, everyone, and welcome back to season 4 of Stand Up and Stand Out. I'm your hostess with the mostest, the Nikki Green, and we are mixing things up this season. With my new book, Chameleon Mindset, launching, I want to share more of the book's concepts with all of you. I have also been blessed to expand my network throughout the podcast community and to other inspirational speakers. I want to bring more guests on to discuss these important topics together, so we're going to mix it up, no more interview format, and we're going to have some fun. So next up, we're going to do a few fun episodes. Hope you enjoy them. And don't forget to give us a like, a follow on your favorite podcast platform. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Stand Up and Stand Out. I'm your host, Nikki Green, and today on our show, we've got the wonderful Victoria Pelletier. Hi, Victoria. Why don't you say hello and give us a little intro of yourself?
Hi, Victoria Pelletier. Great to be here. Thanks for having me, Nikki. And little snippet of me, and then we can certainly dive deeper. So I'm a almost career-long executive, became one at 24. Followed my passion into the business world, which was not the plan. I thought I was going to be a lawyer, and have subsequently done a lot of other things. I describe myself as a multi-potentialite, meaning I have lots of diverse interests. And so I write. I'm a public speaker. I'm a foodie, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a fitness fanatic. That's me.
I love it. A Jane of all trades. And I've been meeting a lot of lawyers lately that decided not to be lawyers along the way. So this will be definitely a good story. Well, today we're going to talk a little bit about a couple of things. Obviously, season 4, we're talking about my new book, Chameleon Mindset, and going into some of those philosophies. One of the key philosophies there is emotional intelligence. And one of the key factors in that is really around unconscious bias. And I know as a lot of us are working on, DEI initiatives, and trying to improve equality and equity in the office, this is really important for lots of folks to understand, both as managers, as employees. So Victoria, why don't you share a little bit of your thoughts and talk about some of the work that you're doing?
Yeah, for sure. I'm really excited about the work that you're doing in this space, because the work around diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, you hear a lot about the B being added to that now, is something that's incredibly personal to me. I come from very, very difficult beginnings. And so for so long, I felt like I was an outsider as a result of those circumstances. And then when I came into the business world, I got promoted into my first executive role at age 24. It was a stretch role for me. I was a new mother. Talk about imposter syndrome, right? I needed to lean a lot into the things that build a bridge transitionally between some of the things I knew I had skill at and all the new areas I was learning. But in that first role, I was, as I said, 24. I was the youngest by 2 decades. I was the only woman, and I am part of the LGBT community. I was married to a woman previously, now married to a man, but very proudly with my ex-wife at that point, and would bring her out. So that was my personal journey of feeling like the only in the room on a multitude of fronts. Although I recognize my privilege as, a white woman born in North America, but there were still other areas in that intersectionality. And so because of my experience, I tried to do more for the colleagues that I supported directly in the workplace, and also really quickly learned how great it is for business around building this inclusive culture. I became COO in an outsourcing organization, and I think 20 plus years ago, telemarketing, it's call center work. It generally is it's not the destination for people. It's a stop on their career journey. I had many new immigrants into the country. And so allowing them to show up as their whole selves when we had, office events and parties, and, bringing their traditions and culture in, it actually created such great employee engagement that our productivity rose, and the retention rates as well. So great for business, not just because it's something I'm passionate about, but ever since then, it's been something I'm hyper focused on, not just within the workplace, but more broadly from a community perspective as well.
Uh, I really love that. And it was something, definitely early on in my career, I struggled as well. You get in there and you think you have to be this thing and you sort of keep everybody at a distance from sometimes knowing the real you. And then you realize as you get to know a little bit about others that until you share of yourself, genuinely share of yourself, you're not really making that connection. And I really hope, this is something challenging with the state of work being so remote, having these kinds of connections and celebrations that we can get to know each other on a different level other than just talking about work on Zoom calls all the time, right?
I agree. I agree. I mean, my example of that, I learned probably in my like mid to late 20s. I've been through 18 mergers and acquisitions in my career that I've been directly a part of, not even including the ones I support clients with. And I usually run operations, so that's where the majority of the employee population sits. And that means some really difficult decisions, reorganization, layoffs, and synergies, as they call it. And I found out my nickname was the Iron Maiden. And I thought, wow, that's like really unfortunate. And I wasn't sure if it was intended as a compliment or if it was negative. And it was maybe
Right.
a few months later when there was another conversation I had and just something that came up in that dialogue. I realized that it was a little bit more as a negative, So I showed up with a mask on, all business, all the time. I was not going to let anyone see that I was emotional because I felt I had to show up in a certain way. And so that was a time where I said, like that, I wouldn't want to work for an Iron Maiden, right? Like that's not, and it's not who I am. I've got a turtle tattoo on my arm because, my best friend named me that. I'm tough exterior. I'm exceptionally resilient, can handle a lot, but I'm actually all marshmallow inside. And then I needed to learn and lean in. It wasn't natural for me to like walk into a business meeting and take the first 5 minutes to just talk about personal stuff. How's your weekend? Get to know people on a more personal level, number one. And then get comfortable with being vulnerable long before Brene Brown was talking about it, but like
Yeah, right.
bring that to the workplace. Right. And it was that shift, which took years. Cause as I said, it wasn't initially natural and I felt uncomfortable in the barriers and walls I'd built for myself. But over time, I then think I built this incredible followership in colleagues I worked with versus them maybe fearing me instead.
Yeah. And that's a terrific transition. And I think, and many people can probably relate. When I first went into the office, the few women I knew, maybe my mom's bosses or people I had seen, the women had pantsuits on. And for me, like for some reason, that was like, this is how a woman dresses in the office. And so I started wearing them. I just felt uncomfortable. It just didn't feel right. And again, this just like uneven experience of like who you're going to work as every day. And I know you talk a little bit about like personal brand and how you represent yourself. And that moment where I shifted just my wardrobe to be something more feminine, more true to myself, more colorful. I was living in Silicon Valley and everything was beige and khaki. And I was just like, does anybody wear any color around here? It brought out my personality too and allowed me to be more genuine. So maybe share some thoughts on branding and why it's so important, especially in this day and age.
Yeah, I didn't use the phrase personal branding 20 years ago, but when I made a shift from working in banking, which was in operations, we're dealing business to consumer. And then when I made the shift out to COO of a BPO, an outsourcing organization, business to business, recognized that the way we competed was very differently. And it was not purely about price. It was about differentiation. And I had this like epiphany one day and, just to recognize that people do business with people they like and they trust and they want to do business with. And so I started to spend much more time networking and engaging and going to conferences. And those were just things as part of my day job. But then I realized that that differentiation for my team or for myself was going to be about who they were as individuals. And so personal branding for me is around the whole person. I worked for one company and they talked about an eminence plan, which is really eminence is the subject matter expertise or industry for which you are known. But in my opinion, that's just one small slice of personal brand. It's who you are authentically, the values, what do you stand up for, the purpose-driven approach that you have. And it's other things too that build connections to people initially. What are the interests, hobbies, and passions that you have? Like, I can't tell you, I'm originally from Canada, so it's not going to shock you when I tell you that I play hockey, or and I coach my kids' hockey teams. So the number of people I met in a hockey arena that turned out to be somehow connected to me in business. And so my brand is about the fact that I want to have a lasting legacy and impact on people, on individuals. Yes, it's about delivering value for the clients I serve, the shareholders that we deliver money for, but I want to be known as a leader with a high degree of integrity and values. I'm purpose-driven. I'm maniacal about having a human-centered, leadership approach and team, and about building great culture. And then there's things that people know me for as well. Again, my passion around diversity and inclusion, the public speaking work that I do, and I talk about resilience, and I now share a very personal story in terms of how that's driven my career forward. And so I'd encourage your listening audience to recognize that, build, your brand, quite honestly, from as early as possible. And it's going to evolve and change over time, but get comfortable with recognizing that it should include your whole person and the things you stand for and who you are as an individual, not just your job title or company.
That's such great advice. And I'm so glad it's the way business is moving right now. I talk a bit about in my book too of, I moved a lot. I've moved every 2 years of my entire life, and constantly changing schools, changing jobs, changing cities, all sorts of things. And every time you start over, it's like, okay, well, I'm here to work, right? And the first thing you step into is your job title, but it didn't really get people to know me. And that's where, for me, sports were also a great outlet. I always played volleyball when I was younger. I coached through college. And so I joined a rec league, and I met a lot of other wonderful Silicon Valley people that I would have never met because I was in finance. I wasn't an engineer, but I met them. They worked at lots of different companies, and I learned more about the businesses that were happening. So it was amazing. It looks like just a bunch of 20-somethings sitting around drinking beer and playing volleyball, but there's so much more going on behind the surface. And it's important, I think, for people to keep those parts of their identity as a whole and not try to compartmentalize or segregate the two.
Yeah, completely agree.
Awesome. Well, you don't believe it, but it's halfway through and we need to take a quick commercial break so we can pay the bills, and we'll be right back after this. Hi everyone, Nikki Green here, and I am here to tell you that Chameleon Mindset is on its way. If you'd like to learn more about the Chameleon Mindset book, the online course that'll help keep you motivated and doing some of the fun Karate Kid exercises, go to chameleonmindsetbook.com and you'll find more information about pre-sales, bonuses, and so much more. Alrighty. And we're back. Thank you guys for staying tuned. We're going to kind of shift gears slightly, but we're going to go into a little bit more depth on this thing we kind of keep hearing a lot about. There's a lot of articles published, the future of work. And you guys know I've shared some of my thoughts, but Victoria, I knew you do a lot of work in this area as well. So why don't you share a little bit of what you're seeing in the workplace as you're meeting with leaders and employees?
Yeah, well, so first thing I'd say, Nikki, is we keep referring to it as the future of work, but I've started saying the future is now. Like, it's dramatically changed over these last couple of years, driven predominantly by COVID. I mean, we were on a journey before, and it's accelerated it. So what I've seen is that employees in particular are looking to work for purpose-led organizations and doing work that, fulfills their desire for purpose and mission in the work that they do. But what's really interesting is, one, there's a purpose gap. And so employers haven't always articulated quite well what their purpose is other than making money and products and services. So they're figuring out how to articulate that in a way that it resonates with their customers who buy their products and services, and then the employees who want to work for them. And the gap that exists is that mismatch, number one, but then two, also particularly the newer generation of employees coming up, really looking for that sort of mission-led approach. And so connecting the work that they do, the role that they're in, directly to the broad macro organizational mission becomes a challenge for leadership to help match them into those roles and continue to articulate for them. So that would be one. Two is certainly, I'm not going to talk about where work gets done. I mean, I think, the future is going to be in a hybrid model. Obviously, if you work in an industry where it requires you being on site, whether that's healthcare, maybe it's some industrial, but in the more office type jobs, that's going to look to be a much more hybrid environment going forward. There needs to be a recognition, however, for trust and transparency with employees. And so what we're seeing is many employees want to do, 3 or more days from home. Some, I'm going to say, old school thinking leaders are concerned about their productivity and trust.
Right.
And so they're looking to measure productivity. And I've had this philosophy years before COVID, and it was, that there are no schedules, there's just deliverables. So get very good at articulating what success looks like. The outcomes need to be delivered and holding your teams accountable to that. I've always said, you didn't need to ask me for permission to take a child to a soccer or baseball game or an aged parent to a doctor's appointment. You just do it. We deliver for our clients. So that would be the other thing. And the one that I would encourage us to be thinking a lot more is around skills when we talk about future of work and recognizing, and you're seeing many companies who are saying they don't require 4-year degrees. They're focused on certain skills and certifications potentially. But that's because I think there's this need to connect the strategy of the business, the 3-5-year plan, what products and services are we going to be delivering, what gets automated, what gets outsourced, and then what gets left behind. Let's look at the skills of those and find a way to attract those kinds of skills in very different ways, going back to the diversity conversation we had, where we find skills. And then the Gen Zers now, their view of job security, and we know there's no real such thing, but my generation or my parents' generation would have looked at job security just in terms of how tenured they would be, what kind of benefits they got. That was their view of security. For now, the Gen Zers, it's about how are you investing in my relevancy and my skills for now and for future. So I think employers need to start, again, matching their business strategy to the talent they need back to skills, and finding a way to not only attract skills in the marketplace with diverse talent, but also building a career path to continue to keep their existing employees relevant through investment in ongoing skill development.
I think that's so important because, and I think we've seen it. I definitely saw it with my young employees. They were coming out top of the class, but they were still missing lots of soft skills, problem solving, ability to interact. They couldn't find conference rooms, those kinds of skills where it was like they took a lot of hand holding. But the thing I'm loving about this next generation is that their ability to articulate what they're missing and what they need. And so I really think now it's to the management level to start stepping up and transforming the way that they manage. And they're going to have to think more broadly about their employees and their well-being. I'm really glad that they're loosening up some of the, kind of hard restrictions on degrees as well, because there's so many people I've met, especially in the last 2 years through this podcast, of people that maybe didn't finish their degree. They did military service, or they went straight to work because they had other family obligations. Those things are valuable skills that can help people. And then, like you said, when there's skill gaps, let's give people certifications, smaller programs they can do while they're working, so that they can continue to grow as an employee for you, but also build their career long term. So those are all great, really great points, and definitely things that I've been seeing grow more and more over the past few years. So one of the things that I keep kind of thinking about too is employees owning more of their career. And you said something about the way we evaluate employees. And I know there is such an old school kind of thinking about it's, time and seat. And are you there before the boss and do you leave after them? But those days are long gone, I think, especially because people are going to have more flexible schedules. What are you kind of seeing about how we're going to change evaluating employees with some of this broader perspective on emotional intelligence and soft skills and maybe some of those things that the KPIs aren't as easy to articulate?
So what I'm seeing is, there are some companies who are completely doing away with the formalized annual performance evaluation cycle, which is
thank you.
Amazing. Now I'm not sure I'm totally comfortable going down that way unless you are trading it for just the regular ongoing performance and coaching conversation. And that, honestly, I hate the annualized performance cycle, because if I'm doing my job well as a leader, I'm having those conversations in my regular one-on-ones with my employees, giving them feedback regularly in a timely manner. When something occurs, I can say, hey, like, I think here might have been an opportunity to do something a little bit, differently or better, or here's, have done it in the past. Maybe you want to leverage some of this. And so I think there's more and more of that kind of human-centered leadership approach that needs to be driven. And I do think more companies are moving towards that focus on outcomes-based performance evaluation and being really clear in developing those business goals and priorities at the start of their fiscal or annualized performance cycle, to be really clear with employees what that looks like. Although with a mix of elements as well. So what I'm seeing is, it's the hard skills that can be measured. So I go back to my earliest days in business of contact center. It's really easy to measure. You take X number of calls, your average call time is this, and you're surveying your customers to see about the quality of service, schedule adherence. There's lots of metrics. So that's easy. But then there's also all of the other elements, going back to purpose, going back to the goals that they can drive and affect related to things, the ESG initiatives. Are you, as a leader, are you hiring diverse talent? What, as a leader also, what kind of engagement scores, satisfaction scores you have from your employees? So I'm finding that there's much more of a mix when you're creating the job priorities, that it's not purely around sort of financial production type results, and these other elements as well. And for those that build strong cultures, it's much more of trust and transparency, and back to what we talked about clarity of roles, the role expectations, purpose, and giving them flexibility in terms of how or when they're going to deliver that.
I think that is great. And it's really just going to make stronger managers and stronger employees. As a manager, most of the time I was also only rewarded and compensated on the performance of the team, those literal finance KPIs. And so all the soft skills, no matter if I spent time and I thought they were valuable, that didn't affect me as a manager. And so hopefully, not only are we changing the way that we're looking at the employees, but, all of the leadership staff as well. I know one of the great things that I had when I worked at Microsoft is they gave us dedicated hours every month to be able to go do our own volunteer work, because it's such a huge organization. Yes, they had sort of, group activities that we could participate in once a quarter, but some people have very specific things. They're in a specific church, or they want to give back to their kids' school. I was always involved in youth sports and youth, give back programs. And so giving employees that opportunity, not only the time away from the office as an important part of skill building, but also, allowing them to choose somewhat to make sure that they're doing something that is of value and matches their purpose and their passions. So hopefully more companies.
Yeah. And actually, as you said that made me think, one of the things I would encourage, so, we are all in control of our career. We're in control of our brand. You are the CEO of brand you. And even as it relates to your performance. So many companies still do have an annual performance cycle. And so what I've done is I use OneNote, but at the beginning of the year, I've agreed with my leader. These are the 5 or 6 or 7 kind of priorities or goals that I'm going to deliver. And then I regularly go in and just update in there. And there is an element around, for me, it's also around my influence, like the brand and how that reflects back on the business. So the public speaking I do, articles I write, the people that I coach when I talk specifically around giving back to diverse communities. So what I tell your listening audience is to make sure that don't wait till the end of the year, get it marked down somewhere and be keeping track of all of those things to be able to bring it back. Because many times as leaders, we don't have insight into all of those things. So control the narrative, document to be able to help support those conversations.
That's fantastic. It's so funny that you mentioned that, because I actually have a free mini course on how to use OneNote. I loved it so much from when I was in Microsoft. And at first I was so like, oh my God, you're taking away our paper notebooks because we were moving to Windows 8 and they were trying to get us to go fully digital. And then I found OneNote and I absolutely fell in love with it. And so then I started doing trainings on it, even when I left Microsoft and went to other companies. And so one of the first things I built here as a part of my new business was exactly that. And it's a great tool, whether it's that or whatever digital notebook, but keeping track of things in a way that's organized, that you can again share them out with your teammates, with your manager, making sure you're setting your own personal goals. You're taking time to journal about how your week went, what skills you're missing, what skills you're excelling at. Your manager's not going to see you every day, especially in a remote environment. And so I think that is fantastic advice, and using one of my favorite tools.
Great minds.
Exactly. Well, time flies when we're having fun. This has been an amazing conversation. I know we're going to connect and do more stuff in the future. I just see a lot of like parallel paths for both of us and exciting things coming as we get to the future of work, which is now. So Victoria, why don't you share a little bit with our audience where they can find you if they're interested in learning more, or maybe booking you as a speaker or getting some more information from you?
Absolutely. Well, I have a website, which is Pelletier.com, and I'm sure the spelling of that will be in the notes, so people, yes. It's a bit complicated. And on there, you will find certainly samples of my media and my speaking work. My book is there. You can get information, all the articles I write, or for those in the business world, you can certainly look me up and connect with me on LinkedIn as well.
Fantastic. Yes, we'll have all that and so much more. We'll even maybe include the mini course on OneNote in the show notes, so anyone who hasn't picked it up yet can grab it. This has been fantastic. I really enjoyed your insights, and I'm excited to have you back, and maybe we'll talk more about Chameleon Mindset, emotional intelligence, future work. Who knows what comes next, but it's been great.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for joining us on Stand Up and Stand Out today. You know you can catch us on Where All the Cool Kids Hang Out That Do podcast. See you guys next time. Thanks everyone for joining us today for another episode of Stand Up and Stand Out. You know you can catch us Where All the Cool Kids Hang Out That Do podcast on all the major platforms. And if you want to connect with Nikki directly, you can get a hold of me on my personal site, thenikkigreen360.com. There you can check out my website, you can see any of my new books, you can learn more about this podcast, and follow us on social. Can't wait to hear from you, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.